Hey everyone, it's Paula again, and here we are with a lesson about goals and objectives. This is a fun one for me because this is such a confusing area for so many people who participate in strategic planning. What's the goal? Is a goal bigger than an objective, or is an objective bigger than a goal? What's tactics? What are strategies? And we get a bunch of confusion around that. So I'm going to keep this really simple and quite linear and quite basic, and it will, I think, be really helpful for you. So first of all, strategic goals should be organized around major areas. Now, I have 6 here. You may have 7 or you may have 4. I don't care. It doesn't matter what number there are, but just think about organizing your goals by these major areas. First of all, it's whatever you do. Your programs, your services, your advocacy, whatever it is you do, that one is going to be goal number 1. And if you keep these consistent over time, that is always goal number 1. The number of goals and the number of objectives you have on it might vary from one planning cycle to the next, but keep the thing that you do that's front and center. And remember, this is strategic, not operational, but it's really important that we keep the goal areas consistent. The second one is growth and innovation. And by the way, those two don't have to both be there. As I said in the previous lesson, you can grow if you want, and you can grow and innovate. You can innovate and improve without growing. So if you want to scratch out growth because that's not where your organization wants to be, that's entirely fine. Facilities, usually we have, even if it's rented facilities, we have something to do with facilities. If that is not an important thing for you, just completely cut it off the list. Revenue generation and finances, human resources, and board governance. Now again, the challenge here is to make sure that although those are the goal areas, because that's the meat and potatoes of the organization, that the goals are actually strategic. So I'm going to share with you some tips on how to make sure that happens. So in each major area, there can be more than one goal. There only has to be one. But there can be more than one, and make sure that you change those headings to fit your organization. Now, lots of you in your real life, in your working life, will have heard the phrase SMART goals. What do SMART goals, and there's variations of this just like there is on the SWOT analysis stuff. Almost a universal agreement that the S stands for specific. So this means to be something that is descriptive, that we can actually see and eventually measure. Okay, the M is then measurable. How will we know when we're done? What will we have in our hand? What will we be able to show? This next one is achievable, and so this means that it's realistic to be able to do that. Now the R in SMART goals also says realistic, and I'm not sure what the difference is between achievable and realistic, because to me they are in fact the same thing, but that's okay. It wouldn't be an acronym if it didn't have the R in there. It would not even spell anything. So then the last one is timely or time defined, right? And sometimes it'll say time bound. Now Peter Drucker, who is a really famous US-based guru on nonprofit leadership, says that that which gets measured gets done. So the purpose of writing a SMART goal is to make sure that it's written in such a way that it helps us measure it, so that we can actually tell us, are we behind in our achievement? Are we right on time? And when are we completed? All right, so I want to talk then in a little bit more detail about goals, objectives, and action plans, because that's what comes after objectives. Some people will call action plans tactics, and we'll call either goals or objectives strategies. Let's just make it simple, people. A goal is a big thing, and it lasts 2 to 3 years to complete it. So in a strategic plan, your goal, as you word it, should take you 2 to 3 years to complete. Your objectives then sit below a goal, and those objectives can be called strategies, but it's essentially the how. So the goal is the what, and takes 2 or 3 years. The objectives are a year or less, and it is the how. So here's the goal, here is the how we're going to achieve the goal. If we do these 10 objectives or these 5 objectives, we will have accomplished our goal in 2 to 3 years. Now when we meet annually to review our strategic plan, what we should be doing then is updating the objectives. The goals stay the same, the goal areas stay the same, and the objectives get updated, added to, deleted from, changed, checked off because we accomplished it. So this is really important. And then we talk about, if we have an objective, then what do we need to be able to accomplish that objective? Well, what is an action plan? An action plan says who will do what by when, right? So we have the what, the big picture, we have the how, the objectives, then we have the action plans that actually says this board member, this staff member will complete this task by this date. And if we get that action planning, now some objectives need a page of action planning, some of them need 2 lines. So if you need only 2 lines, you probably don't need an action plan at all, but it helps us get clarity in your task forces who is going to do what pieces of this and what are the time frames that are attached to that. Now the M in the SMART goals then really says that we measure this by time and we measure it by completion, or at least some project points towards completion. So the measurement part is often included in the action plan. So how will we know when we're done? Well, we'll have this date, and by this date we'll have these things happen to us. So goals, objectives, timelines, more than one goal if you need it, multiple objectives under each goal, action plans for each objective if you need that because the level of detail is necessary. Now here's the $5 million question. You can send me $5 million after I answer it for you. The big question is, how do we ensure that the goals are strategic, not operational? Because if you look on the surface, those 6 goal areas that I just gave you are actually have operational language attached to them. So the question we ask first of all is, do the activities required by the strategic goal require ongoing board level involvement and leadership? Let me use the one facilities just to illustrate this. There was a goal area called facilities. If all you're doing is doing routine repair and maintenance, that's an operational goal. It is not a board goal. However, if your goal is to raise money to do major renovations and retrofit your current facility, or to build a new addition, or to buy land or put on your existing land a brand new facility, then you're going to have a whole bunch of things related to architectural renderings, to fundraising, to stakeholder input in terms of the design of the building, etc. It's truly strategic, right? If all you're talking about is replacing a furnace or getting a new roof, it's operational. So make sure you make those distinctions as you go along, because it will really help elevate your goals as being strategic and keep them out of the fingers in stuff that should be managed by managers. The second thing is that there are operational activities under each goal that will require management involvement to support the achievement and goals. So if this requires management time to be able to make an objective happen, then that's great, because it means the goal is strategic and there's a partnership between the strategic priorities of the board, let's just use facility again, to build a new building or design a new building or design an addition, or find one to get out of your rented facility. Then it's truly strategic, but there will be operational work that's done by management, like tendering a contract to an architectural to architects to be able to design the renovation or the facility that you want to create. So the question about strategic goals is also, are they multi-year in focus? Sometimes we're pretty front-end loaded. Here's one of the things that happens. We have 6 goal areas. We have 6 goals, let's say, but almost all of them are only going to be done over the next year. So we tend to be short run, not long enough in our focus, which means they're probably not strategic. They're probably closer to operational. So the question that you would ask then is, what do we need to do to make this a multi-year thing, so that that goal is going to stretch us to 2nd year, 3rd year, and maybe even beyond? There's nothing wrong with the goal not being completed at 3 years, because if you can rejuvenate it because it's still relevant to you, then it's entirely fine to be able to put a 4th and a 5th year onto that goal, because you're still working to accomplish something that was fairly big in the first place. The 4th question is are the goals complex with multiple phases or stages of work required? If all this requires is 3 months of committee work, it's not complex enough, it's not big enough, it's not multi-phase enough. So this is part of the version of it being multi-year, but it should be complicated enough to warrant something being called a strategic goal rather than an operational goal. And then the final one on this list is that goals are focused mostly on the core of the organization and what it wants to become in the future, not the maintenance of what it is now. Strategic goals talk about future thinking. Even if you're not growing, even if you're improving and solidifying what you have, it should be still future focused. So if it's talking about today and not tomorrow and not a month and a year and a decade from tomorrow, it's probably not strategic. So pretty important that we then use these 5 little questions to vet our goals through the process. Now in your handout then I have given you an example. So here we have the area called sustainability and revenue generation. Okay, so that's kind of a financial goal. The goal 4.1 is that by year end 2025, not less than 20% of our annual operating revenue will be from the sources other than public funding. Okay, so now you see my bias here. I'm talking about revenue diversification, and we're going to talk about social enterprise. However, is it multi-year? Yes. Will it require board member involvement? You bet. Will it involve some operational work by management? Certainly will. Is it complex and multi-phase? Absolutely it is. To be able to accomplish that is pretty substantial. Then goal, and this one obviously needs objectives underneath it. Okay. Goal 4.2 is to develop a 3-year plan to diversify revenues with an annual percentage targets for each year commencing in 2020. Minimally, the plan will include 3 new revenue sources, planned to be reviewed by the board by March 2019. Now, I love this one. Of course, I wrote it, but I love this one because it's measurable, right? It says how many revenue sources, what dates, who will approve it. So now we've embedded into it, and you can see it's not wordy. I could probably make it a little bit tighter, but it really describes what do we want to have. We want a 3-year plan. It's got to have 3 new revenue sources. It's got a percentages attached by each, and it says where it's going to go and by what date. So this is a real simple way of looking at measurement. So this is a goal. Is it multi-year? Absolutely. Is it going to take something, multiple stages? Does it involve board members and senior staff? You bet. So when you look at those 5 questions on the previous slide, you see how that applies to the goals that we set. And the last one is to research at least 5 operating social enterprise business models, other nonprofit experiences, successful or not, with social enterprise, and prepare a report recommendation to the board for review by June the 30th, 2020. Okay, so again, you can see this is a goal for all of the reasons of the 5 points that we talked about before. So this is a really cool way of laying out what you intend to do to improve your sustainability and to generate more revenue. Okay, we're now at your learning assignment. Just a reminder, it's great to watch the videos, better even if you do something about them. So hold a board discussion about your organization, is where you're currently at as an organization, the phases of strategic planning. And that can be anywhere from we've never done one right through to we've got one and we could just tweak it, and there's some cool stuff that we could learn from this module. The second one is, if you have a strategic plan in place, are your goals SMART? So check them against the SMART goals, but also check them against those 5 things that we want to have. And is the board sharing in the work, providing leadership to achieve those goals? So if not, then you obviously have a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of course correcting to do. And then finally is, based on the information that we talked about in this model, what are the next steps for your board and senior management to improve on your planning process? So as you get to the next stages of this, what do you want to do that makes this go really well the next time you decide to embark on the journey of creating a new 3-year or 5-year strategic plan? Thanks, that's the end of this lesson, and we'll see you in the next lesson.